Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Week of Wildlife Wisdom. So far, I've been your host, Sergey, and happy Halloween. Also, apologies if you can hear background noise. Someone started the washing machine just as I started the recording. Let's go into it. The first animal of the week being Lepicema saccharonim, better known as the common silverfish, or simply the silverfish, is a species of small nocturnal primitive wingless insect in the order Zygentoma, formerly Thysanura. Its common name derives from the insect's silvery light gray color combined with its fish-like appearance of its movements. Silverfish are a cosmopolitan species found in Africa, the Americas, Australia, Eurasia, and parts of the Pacific. They inhabit moist areas such as wetlands, forests, jungles, coastlands, various soils, agricultural land, and subterranean areas. In urban areas, they can be found in attics, basements, sewers, bathrooms, kitchens, libraries, classrooms, and pools. Silverfish are unique in their ability to digest cellulose by themselves, and as such, they consume nearly any matter that contains polysaccharides, particularly starches and dextrin. These include paper, wood, carpet, clothing, coffee, dandruff, hair, some paints, paper, photos, plaster, sugar, glue, paste, cotton, dead insects, linen, silk, leather, grains, seeds, polyester, and even their own molted exoskeletons. During famine, a silverfish may live for a year or more without eating if water is available. Common silverfish are themselves eaten by house centipedes and spiders, such as the spitting spider. Reaching half an inch to 1 inch in length, or 13 to 25 millimeters in length, silverfish sport abdomens which taper at the end. It also has two small compound eyes and long antennae. It moves in a wiggling motion that resembles the movements of a fish swimming. Before silverfish reproduce, they carry out a ritual involving 3 phases. Which may last over half an hour. In the first phase, the male and female stand face to face, their vibrating antennae touching, then repeatedly back off or return to this position. In the second phase, the male runs away and the female chases him. In the third phase, the male and female stand side by side and head to tail, with the male vibrating his tail against the female. Finally, the male lays a spermatophore, a sperm capsule covered in a gossamer, which the female takes into her body via her ovipositor to fertilize her eggs. The female lays groups of fewer than 60 eggs at once, which are deposited in small crevices and take between 2 weeks and 2 months to hatch. When nymphs hatch, they are whitish in color and look like smaller adults. As they molt, young silverfish develop a grayish appearance and a metallic sheen, eventually becoming adults after 3 months to 3 years of age. Silverfish are some of the only insects to molt throughout their entire lives, and under ideal conditions may live up to 8 years. Next up is Dromaeosaurus, which is an extinct genus of dromaeosaurid theropod dinosaur, lived throughout what is now North America during the Campanian to Maastrichtian stages of the late Cretaceous period, some 80 to 69 million years ago. Despite receiving widespread attention in popular books on dinosaurs and the usage of a complete mounted skeleton cast in museums throughout the world, Dromaeosaurus is poorly known from actual fossils. The preparation of the popular cast by the Tyrrell Museum was only made possible by knowledge gained from other dromaeosaurids. First known remains of Dromaeosaurus, consisting of a partial skull, 2 hyoids, a first metacarpal, and some foot bones, were uncovered from the Red Deer River in Alberta, Canada, by paleontologist Barnum Brown in 1914. However, it wouldn't be until 1922 that Barnum Brown would officially name and describe the specimen with the help of William Diller Matthew. They dubbed the animal Dromaeosaurus albertensis, with a generic name meaning running lizard in Greek, and the specific name albertensis referring to Alberta. Several other skull fragments, isolated bones, and about 30 teeth are known from subsequent discoveries in Alberta and Montana. Although 7 additional species have been named, all have been either reclassified as another genus or considered a nomina dubia, or were sunk back in Dromaeosaurus albertensis, leaving only the only currently valid species. Sorry, I don't know why that sentence was hard for me to get out. reach around 6.7 feet or 2 meters in length and 35 pounds or 16 kilograms in weight. Dromaeosaurus was a small carnivorous theropod which sported a robust skull and a deep snout. Its teeth were rather large, well-worn, and shaped like a curved cone with a coat of enamel covering the crown, suggesting that Dromaeosaurus used its jaws for crushing and tearing rather than simply slicing through flesh. It was likely covered in feathers and would have had a sharply curved sickle claw on each foot. Recent analysis shows that whilst Dromaeosaurus would have been similar in size to Velociraptor and Troodon, it would have been much more heavily built, and is more closely related to larger dromaeosaurs such as Utahraptor, Oscillobacter, and Ergovutia. Anguilla australis, better known as the short-finned eel, the Pacific short-finned eel, the New Zealand short-finned eel, the kuyang, or the short-finned eel, is one of 15 species of eel in the family Anguillidae, which is native to the lakes, dams, and coastal rivers of southeastern Australia, New Zealand, and much of the South Pacific, including New Caledonia, Norfolk Island, Lord Howe Island, Tahiti, and Fiji. Throughout their range, they are abundant but do not travel as far inland as other eel species. They are carnivorous and ferocious predators, eating crustaceans, fish, frogs, birds, snakes, and racali, or native Australian water rats. Males are smaller than females, reaching up to 2.9 feet or 0.9 meters in length, around 4.4 pounds or 2 kilograms in weight, whilst the larger females may reach upwards of 3.6 feet or 1.1 meters in length and 6.6 pounds or 3 kilograms in weight. The body of an adult short-finned eel is long and snake-like, roughly tubular, with a small head and jaws reaching back below the eye or even further. The dorsal and anal fins are roughly equal length, and the color varies considerably from one individual to another. Some are a deep olive green, but others can be much lighter, such as golden or even yellowish in color. There are no markings of note, but the underside is pale, often silvery, and the fins are typically greenish. Like many other anguillids, short-finned eels are catadromorphs, meaning they reach maturity and then stop feeding and migrate downstream to the sea, traveling to a spawning ground in deep water somewhere in the Coral Sea off New Caledonia. Recent evidence shows that short-finned eels are facultatively catadromous rather than obligatory, with distinct marine and estuarine populations existing alongside those that enter fresh water. The leptocephalus, or narrowhead larvae, drift with the ocean currents and eventually reach coastal waters, where they metamorphose into glass eels, which are tiny and semi-transparent eels, before metamorphosizing again into eelvers, or elvers, which are darker in color. Once they reach around 1 foot or 30 centimeters in length, they transform into their adult stage and only then develop into either male or female. At some point, the eels start changing their shape again to prepare for the trip back to the ocean for spawning. Their digestive system shrinks and their gonads become larger to make room for their eggs and sperm. Their eyes get bigger and their heads pointier, possibly an adaptation for better ocean swimming. Under ideal conditions, male short-finned eel may live up to 25 years and a female up to 35. Next up is Xiphactinus, which is an extinct genus of large, predatory, marine bony fish that lived during the Albian to Maastrichtian stages of the late Cretaceous period, some 100 to 66 million years ago. The first remains known to be Xiphactinus, consisting of several teeth, were recovered from New Jersey by Professor Cook at the State Geological Survey under the direction of Dr. W. Kitchell in the 1850s. These were initially ascribed to the genus Polygonodon by Joseph Leidy in 1856, who thought they belonged to a mosasaur. Also in the 1850s, remains consisting of a partial skeleton were unearthed from the Niobrara Chalk Formation in Kansas. This was also described by Joseph Leidy, who gave the animal the name Xiphactinus, meaning sword ray in Greek. Since then, remains of Xiphactinus have been recovered throughout the USA, Canada, Australia, Europe, Venezuela, and Argentina. many of which are remarkably well preserved, such as the famous fish within a fish specimen collected by George F. Sternberg, which shows Xiphactinus with a Gillicus arcutus inside its stomach. Today, two species are considered valid, X. ventus and X. audax. Xiphactinus is a member of the extinct order Ichthyodecaforms, which represent close relatives to modern teleost fishes, reaching 16 to 20 feet or 5 to 6 meters in length and superficially resembling gargantuan fanged tarpon. Xiphactinus were voracious carnivorous fish, which often swallowed their prey whole. And next up is the Baudet du Poitou, also called the Poitevin or Poitou donkey. It is a large French breed of domestic donkey, and the exact origins of the Poitou breed are unknown, but donkeys and their use in the breeding of mules may have been introduced to the Poitou region of France by the Roman Empire. The Baudet de Poitou and the, I'm going to butcher this, Mula Serreri horse breed were developed together for the use of producing superior mules. The Middle Ages, owning a Poitou donkey may have been a status symbol amongst local French nobility. In the mid-1800s, Poitevin mules were regarded as the finest and strongest in France, and between 15,000 and 18,000 were sold annually. In 1884, a stud book was established for the Poitou donkey in France, and during the first half of the 20th century, mules bred by the Poitou and the Poitevin continued to be desired throughout Europe, and were called the finest working mule in the world. As mechanization increased around World War II, mules became outmoded, and the Poitou donkey population fell dramatically. After a breed census in 1977 found only 44 Poitou donkeys worldwide, conservation efforts were led by several public and private groups in France and Portugal. These efforts proved successful, and today around 2,000 Poitou donkeys are known, with females reaching 4.6 feet or 1.4 meters tall at their shoulders, and males reaching 5.2 feet or 1.56 meters tall. The Baudet is one of the largest breeds of domestic donkey, with only the Catalan, Mammoth Jack, Andalusian, and the Balearic breeds reaching similar or larger sizes. They have large, long heads, strong necks, long backs, short croups, and round haunches. The limb joints and feet are large and the legs strong. The temperament is described as friendly, affectionate, and docile. In Poitou, the coat of the Baudet was traditionally and deliberately left ungroomed. In time it formed cotonets, aka long, shaggy locks, somewhat like dreadlocks. The coat is typically a dark brown or black in color, but may also be silver, dark gray, or red. Next up is Sacabambaspis, which is a now extinct genus of jawless fish that live in the shallow waters along the continental margins of Gondwana during the Ordovician period, some 470 to 453 million years ago. The first remains of Sacabambaspis, consisting of 30 well-preserved specimens, were unearthed in the village of Sacabamba, Cochabamba department in Bolivia by Gagnier, Bilek, and Rodrigo in 1986, who named the animal Sacabambaspis Javierni after the village it was found. It is thought that these remains represent a school of fish that were killed during a sudden event, such as a massive storm, as the fish were found alongside a number of brachiopods and other fossilized invertebrates. Since then, several specimens of indeterminate species have been found in many countries corresponding to the margins of Gondwana, such as Australia, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Argentina. This wealth of specimens make Sacabambaspis the best known Arandaspid, reaching around 10.75 inches or 27 centimeters in length. The body shape of Sacabambaspis vaguely resembled that of a tadpole with an oversized head, flat body, wriggling tail, and lack of fins. It had characteristic frontally positioned eyes and a well-armored shield-like head. The rest of the body was covered by long, strap-like scales, and although it had no jaws, the mouth Sacabambaspis was lined with nearly 60 rows of small, bony oral plates, which were probably movable in order to provide more efficient suction feeding through the expansion and contraction of the oral cavity and pharynx. And Centroroides vittatus, better known as the striped bark scorpion, is a species of common scorpion found throughout the midsection of the United States and northern Mexico, from as far north as Nebraska to as far south as the Mexican state of Tamaulipas, or Tamaulipas, and eastward from the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in Rio Grande in New Mexico and South Colorado to the Missouri and Mississippi rivers in Missouri and Louisiana. Such a wide geographic distribution allows the semi-arboreal species to occupy an equally wide range of biomes, such as deserts, deciduous and coniferous forests, shrublands, grasslands, agricultural lands, and urban environments. During the day, striped-barked scorpions rest in crevices under rocks and debris, vegetation, or old rural structures like sheds, barns, and houses. At night, they emerge to hunt prey such as spiders, cockroaches, ants, crickets, beetles, moths, butterflies, small rodents, and lizards, which they dispatch utilizing their pincers and tail stinger. The venom of the striped-barked scorpion can be intense and painful, also known to cause swelling, paresthesia, and muscle spasms, but is very rarely fatal to humans. Striped-barked scorpions are themselves preyed upon by birds, reptiles, some mammals, and larger arachnids. Reaching up to 2.75 inches or 70 millimeters in length, is a medium-sized pale yellow scorpion that can be identified by two dark longitudinal stripes on its carapace and a dark triangle above the ocular tubercle. Unlike most species of scorpion, C. vittatus is a social species with complex mating rituals. Males begin by engaging behavior to establish dominance to mate. They engage in a showdown that highlights tail waving and shifting until one backs down. Once a male is established that he is the one to mate, he engages with the female in the first step of courtship, called the promenade audax, or pad. During this step, the smaller male maneuvers the female to a spot where he can deposit his spermatophore for reception. This step determines whether the female will accept the male spermatophore, as the male must hold the female long enough to coax her over the spermatophore. If the male has successfully maneuvered her, the male and female then move to join and rub chelicera to the kiss stage, where the female takes up the spermatophore. The female then allows about 8 months for gestation, not digestion, whereupon she has live offspring, which spend some time, for at least for one molt to occur, on the protection of her back. Under ideal conditions, the striped-barked scorpion may live up to 8 years. As always, take care to my guys, gals, non-binary pals. Happy Halloween!